Hello and welcome to the Dream Team Professor podcast. My name is Scott, and in this episode, we're looking at the top players to target for Game Week 3 Sun Dream Team. I'm recording this on Wednesday evening, so there is still some Carabao Cup action taking place. We don't have the full fixture list, but I'll do another video towards the end of the week when we'll have the full fixture list filled out. This is the fixture ticker from ffstuff.co.uk. The deadline is Saturday, again, 11 a.m, so don't get caught out by the new deadline before the Arsenal-Brighton early kickoff. 12:30 kickoff, but the deadline's at 11 a.m. Fixture ticker, we're looking from, well, we've got Game Week 2 still up because there's still a few games taking place on the Wednesday. But there's a few things that we have to sort of pay attention to, moving parts, looking at the full fixture ticker. So currently we have Carabao Cup action taking place. We don't fully know which teams are through yet. The teams that played yesterday, we know are through, and they'll play in either Game Week 4, Game Week 5, depending on the draw tonight. But we also have some Champions League, Europa League, and Europa Conference League draws to be filled in. But we don't fully know if they're going to be filled in by the deadline. So the draw takes place on Thursday. We'll find out which teams everyone will face. But I've been looking into the Champions League or all the European draws today, and it sounds like we're not actually going to know what the fixture list looks like. It says that the final fixture list will be released on Saturday, the 31st of August. So we'll know which teams the teams in Europe are playing, but we just don't know in what order until Saturday. I'm guessing we're not going to get that information before the Dream Team deadline, which is a bit of a shame because I was thinking that I'd hold off and maybe wait, maybe find out who Aston Villa, for example, will be facing because their run looks quite nice. But I think we're probably not going to have that information until the following game week. So just something that I'd learnt myself this week that I thought I'd probably share with you guys. So Carabao Cup draw still to be done, and Champions League draw, Europa League Conference draw. We'll probably know who each team will face, but just not when. Important things to look at. So Game Week 3 is just a single game week in the Premier League, so each team will only play once. We've just had a double game week with Carabao Cup. In Game Week 4, we have another double game week, and there's going to be a lot of double game weeks coming up. So Game Week 4, Premier League for everyone. Champions League for Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Aston Villa. However, there's still games that will be put into here. So once we have the Carabao Cup draw done, the teams that have gone through could play their next round in the Carabao Cup in Game Week 4. You've also got the European sides that aren't Champions League sides that could have their Carabao Cup or will have their Carabao Cup draws put in. So that would be the likes of Spurs, Manchester United, Chelsea. And then in Game Week 5, it's Premier League plus Europa League. So the start of Europa League, so we'll have all the Premier League teams playing once, Manchester United playing in Europa League and Spurs playing in Europa League. But the Champions League sides that get drawn in the Carabao Cup will play their Carabao Cup matches in Game Week 5. Of course, plus whoever their opponents are, they could then play in either Game Week 4 or Game Week 5 if they get drawn against a Champions League side. Hope that's clear. Like I said, I'll do another video towards the end of the week once we've got the information, and hopefully this will be filled out a little bit more. We'll have a bit more information. But I thought it'd be handy to sort of cover it. And then Game Week 6, Europe should be pretty much back to normal with every team playing. And there's a question mark there. If Chelsea get through their Europa Conference playoff match that they play tomorrow, they'll be in for Game Week 6. We'll kick things off with Manchester City. No surprises with a 4-1 win against Ipswich. And probably not a surprise that Haaland got a hat-trick again. 24 points. His 10th hat-trick for Manchester City in 101 games. So getting a hat-trick pretty much every 10 matches now, Haaland. He was 36% captained in the overall game. In the top 1K, though, Salah was actually the most highly capped at 39%. But most of the people that I saw did opt for going for Haaland this week. A few people went for the goal bonus, which typically, I think we always say use boosters in double game weeks. but it did seem to pay off this week for Haaland. So congratulations if you did go for the goal bonus this week. De Bruyne, 15 points with a goal and an assist. He's likely to get a rise as well. Playing 90 minutes, so he's good for minutes at the minute as well, De Bruyne. Should we pick him up now at 6.3? Is he going to be any cheaper than that in the near future? I think it could be a good moment to maybe get on De Bruyne if you can make it work. Savinho, 12 points. Started both matches since joining City. 3.4 million. Did go off in that first match early with an injury, but turned out okay for this one. Yeah, really impressive actually. Closing down the keeper, got him one of the assists, and I think he won a penalty for the other one. 4 tackles, hit tackles in both matches that he's played in. It looks like a really, really good option. And I know it's everyone's saying it, but you can't help but see a little bit of Mahrez in the way he plays. Foden at 6.2. This was one that I'm kind of interested in. He was missing from this Ipswich game. By the way, that match centre on the screen is from FF Stuff. You can check that out, ffstuff.co.uk. He was missing from this game, Foden, through illness. Sounds like he's going to be back for the next game, but I'm just thinking he fell in the last match and he's now at 6.2. Is there a chance that we could pick him up again at a cheap price ahead of a nice fixture run? I quite like the look of that, but it is risky. I know a few people went there this week and obviously got stung by the injury. So maybe one to consider, but there are a few good options at that price point. So we'll come on to a few of those later. Gundogan and Grealish both came off the bench, which is a little bit concerning because you've got Foden, Gundogan and Grealish all fighting for those places. So someone like Savinho might not be that safe. Rodri is still not in training apparently, so it doesn't seem like he's going to be back for the next match. Defense, 1 shot on target, 1 goal conceded. I think it was actually just 1 shot in the whole game from Ipswich as well. So kind of typical from Manchester City. We've seen that happen a fair bit when you've owned the City defenders. But Rico Lewis did impress again. So he picked up 5 points in this one, 9 ppm, got him 3 bonus. And he does seem to be having a little bit of a knock on, not letting Vardiol get forward as much. But Vardiol didn't do bad himself. He came away with 4 points, which would be disappointing. But he was only 1 ppm away from getting 3 bonus points himself. So I think both options are still pretty good. You'd have to think Vardiol is safer. But he has had 2 starts now, Rico Lewis. So could be someone to consider if you think he's going to carry on starting. But I can't help but think Walker's going to come back eventually. Arsenal, impressive win against Villa, 2-0 win. I think we were pretty fortunate at times. Villa had some really, really good chances. Raya bailed us out a few times. But back-to-back clean sheets now for Arsenal. Is the defence worth jumping on? Are they worth the money? I still don't think they're worth the money, but they are showing it with these 2 clean sheets. I just still can't help but think I would prefer to have like Vardiol or maybe sort of Trent Robertson before the Arsenal players at the minute at that price. I still see some value in some of the cheaper defenders as well, but you can't argue with it. They keep clean sheets in the big games as well. But Brighton, Tottenham, Man City, the next 3 do look pretty tough. I'd be very surprised if we managed to keep clean sheets in all of those. Timber, 3.4 million is a cheap entry into that Arsenal defence. He was chosen for this Villa match. I think probably because the matchup with Bailey. But when you look at the fixtures that are coming, we'll be up against sort of Johnson or Kulusevski from Spurs. For City, we could have that new Savinho. I don't think Zinchenko is going to be fancied for either of those. So Timber could be in with a shout at 3.4 of starting some of these matches. Even Brighton with Minte on that right-hand side or a Dingra, they're all sort of players that would cause Zinchenko problems. So I do think we'll see a lot of Timber at 3.4. There just is also always that little bit of doubt because Calafiori was the player that came on for Timber in this match. And obviously Zinchenko is still there. So there is a chance that there is rotation, but it is interesting at 3.4 to possibly get those clean sheets. Eyes will be on Champions League draw. So Arsenal will be appealing, but I just think this tough-ish run would probably only have me leaning towards Saka at the minute. No problem if you have got a defender already, but I probably wouldn't be grabbing one for this run. And then the double up from Arsenal. Obviously, Trossard's done well in this one, but him and Martinelli keep sharing minutes. And I don't think I'd double up on the attack until game week 6, where we see Leicester, a Champions League match, and then Southampton. That looks like a time where I might start to consider maybe an Odegaard or a Havertz. Liverpool, back-to-back clean sheets as well, like Arsenal. The highest XG and the lowest XG conceded. So it seemed like they're getting a lot of control, or a lot more control under Arne Slot, but still pretty potent in attack. The defence are all going to rise again after that clean sheet. And like I said, I'm more keen on these than the Arsenal defenders. Man United away, Forest at home, Champions League, Bournemouth at home, Wolves away. All look like pretty good fixtures. Robertson at 3.6. I think that he looks really good value in comparison to maybe the Arsenal defenders. He got 10 points in this one. Really attacking positions. He hit bonus. He's actually getting better minutes than Trent. Trent seems to keep going off for Bradley. And looked quite fed up about it after that game. Whereas Robertson seems to be staying on, but we'll have to wait and see how that carries on when Europe starts. Only 2 points behind Trent in the overalls, but I think Trent has been quite unlucky not to get an attacking return yet. He's been very good. 5.7 million. Those early subs may not actually be a terrible thing for Trent either, because on both occasions he's gone off keeping the clean sheet. They've gone on to keep the clean sheet in the match anyway, but there will be scenarios where he might go off in the 72nd again, and then they concede and he keeps the clean sheet. So it may not be a terrible thing. Diaz, 4.4, 16 points with a goal and an assist in this match against Brentford. He's really thriving under the new system. The price, 4.4, I think is pretty good. I just have doubts when Europe starts what they're going to do with those sort of winger positions. You've also got Gakpo, Nunes, and now they've added Chiesa today to the mix. So another option that can probably play on either side. Take some minutes off Salah, take some minutes off the left-hand side. But you just always think that Salah's going to probably be the last one to come off or get rotated. But Diaz still a good option, 4.4. Jota, 4.7. He's returned again with an assist. Again, early substitution though with Diaz. Salah came off in the 83rd a little bit later on. Back-to-back goals for Salah, 11 points. I'm happy with the decision I made for Salah, playing on that right wing. But those that went for Diaz or Jota, I think you've pretty much kept the pace with those points. And you could argue that they've actually sort of had better returns for the price point. The only thing I feel like with Salah is you're more likely to get those European matches when they come. And looking at that fixture sort of ticker, I think there's a good chance that you've got some captaincy picks as well for Salah there. Game week 4, if it's Forest, and then a Champions League match, it could be nice. Game week 5, Bournemouth at home. Game week 6, we've just seen Wolves, poor defending, and then a Champions League match thrown in there. So we'll wait and see what those Champions League draws look like, but I think that Salah is still going to be captainable in this run. Aston Villa. This one is a tough one. So they had a loss, but I think we've come out of that loss against Arsenal thinking that Villa do look like pretty good options going into this run still. So Leicester at home in game week 3, Everton at home in game week 4 plus Champions League. We have to wait and see. Game week 5, Wolves at home, and I think they'll have Carabao Cup put in there. And game week 6, Ipswich and a Champions League match. So a lot of green on the fixture ticker here. The question mark really is going to be, do we put Villa players in now for Leicester, get the early edge, but you're probably going to get price drops on someone like an Ollie Watkins, maybe defenders, which is not great at this point in the season when we want to build budget. Or do we wait a week later, but you sort of give up the edge, because if they do well against Leicester, everyone is going to get on them for that game week 4 match against Everton and then in the Champions League. So it's just weighing up how much you want the budget, how much you want the points. I feel like this is a classic points versus budget example. One thing I would say is if you are looking for an Ollie Watkins, there are people around that price point that will get the price rise and still have a decent fixture. So it's something to consider. Rodgers, 2.5 million, had a great game against Arsenal. I've not really seen many people shrug off Thomas Partey and Declan Rice like that. He had a really good performance. He was unlucky not to get an assist for an Ollie Watkins goal. Ollie Watkins with a terrible miss in that one. Really should be putting that away. And I think later in the season, he would be. Looks a little bit rusty. He got the full 90 minutes, Rodgers, while Watkins actually only got the 65. Ticks all the boxes as a European enabler. That's if he does end up playing both. But seems to be getting decent minutes at the moment. Just yet to know his full dream team potential when it comes to sort of goals, assists, whether he'll regularly hit bonus. He got 6 ppm in this one, 2 tackles, and a big chance created. But at 2.5 million, I feel like I'm potentially willing to take the risk on him for that price point, having potential for double game weeks. We then have the youngster, Nedeljkovic. We'll call him Ned for short. 2.5 million. He was on for the injured Matty Cash and could be a short-term option at 2.5. He's come on back-to-back matches now for Matty Cash. Both of them, I think Cash picked up an injury. Looks like a hamstring injury for Cash. Could be out for a sort of a month. The only downside of this is if you do bring him in, if you do bring Ned in, after game week 3, we have an international break, which is 2 weeks long. So we've got game week 3, a 2-week international break. That's 3 weeks out of the potential 4 weeks that he might end up being out. So it may be very short term. So if you're looking for a short term solution, it might work and he might end up keeping his place or playing one of the 2 fixtures. Might not be the end of the world, but just something to consider. I do like the look of a defensive option for this because fixtures do sort of dictate the points a lot of the time. Concert at 4 mil still seems a bit steep for me. Maybe Torres at 3.6 could be a bit more value, but we do know that Concert is usually pretty good for bonus, is the only sort of caveat. You do have Digne and Matson, both probably got a higher upside, but more likely to share minutes. So I'm not fully sold on any of them at the minute. There's also the keeper, Martinez. It sounds like Ramsdale is going to be going to Southampton, which is going to cause a lot of McCarthy owners problems. Maybe there'll be a debate of whether to just go straight for Martinez early, or maybe you want to jump on another budget goalkeeper for the time being and then get him a little bit later. But I think people might start to consider Martinez at that point if they are going to have to swap keepers. If you've enjoyed it so far, please do leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Like I said, I will have another video coming out later in the week, my team selection, and then I'm going to pair that with the fixtures once we know the Carabao Cup draw and a bit more information on the Champions League draw. Also, do check out the Dream Team Tonic podcast. We've got an episode out that we recorded yesterday. That is live out to everyone at the moment as a preview for Game Week 3. So do check that one out as well. Link in the description below. On to Manchester United, who have a tough match at home to Liverpool in the next one. They've just lost against Brighton 2-1. Not looking their best, I must say. It's looking pretty similar to how last season went, but I think we're giving the benefit of the doubt because they've still got a lot of new players to sort of come into the mix. Bruno Fernandes, I think, has been very unlucky so far. I think reluctantly, if I had him, I would sell him and I wouldn't be buying him currently. The reason I think I would be selling him is because the price changes are just so brutal on these expensive players. Currently still 6 million, but after 3 points against Brighton, I imagine he's going to drop. And you've got players around the same price point, Palmer, Saka, who probably are going to rise. Watkins, who is probably going to drop, but has a much better fixture. And then you've also got the likes of Foden around that price point, KDB, who will get a rise. So there's a lot of options. And I don't think that Liverpool fixture is the best. So I do think I would sell him if I had him. Southampton, away in game week 4, they could have a Carabao Cup fixture put in there, but I had a look back and Bruno didn't start United's 2 Carabao Cup matches last season, so I wouldn't bank on a double there. Game week 5, Crystal Palace looks okay, and once European football starts, I do think is a good option, but maybe now could be a time to sell. Mainu at 3.3 is actually someone that is interesting me, and I feel like a few of us probably do have to eat our words because he was one of the most highly owned players at the start of the game, which raised a few eyebrows because I don't think he was the best on Dream Team last season. But he got 11 ppm in that first match, so really close to max bonus. And then he got maximum bonus in this Brighton match. So that is something that is quite interesting to me. He does get the odd attack in return, tackle points as well. But at that price point, if he is playing twice a week come Europe, he could be someone that interests us. Game week 4, I think, is probably going to be the entry point, I think, if we do go for Man United players. But it just depends how this Liverpool match goes. If it is a beating, if it does look like a lot of players are going to get price drops, it does make it less appealing. But that Southampton fixture does look decent on paper. I think it's a wait and see on United players. Chelsea, getting a lot of interest this week. I think they've got 2 of the most transferred in players so far this game week. Let me just double check that. Yep, the top 2 transferred in players are from Chelsea this game week. No surprise after scoring 6 points. That seems to be how the transfers in at the minute work, transferring in the players that did the points the week before. So Chelsea in game week 3 have Crystal Palace at home. Game week 4 is Bournemouth away, and then they could have their Carabao Cup fixture put into game week 4 or game week 5, I think. Most likely game week 4, I'm pretty sure. Game week 6 is then Brighton at home, and then if they win their playoff, which we expect that they will then have their Europa League conference matches put into game week 6. So Carabao Cup, game week 4 or 5, and then the double in game week 6 if they get through in the conference. That second leg takes place tomorrow. Probably looking at the lineup tomorrow will give us an indication of who might start that Premier League match against Crystal Palace, but there's a lot of options there. So Cole Palmer, I think, is the better option, and he's actually the second most transferred in player this week on Dream Team. A ridiculous goal himself, lobbing the keeper, and 3 assists, 19 points. He's going to get a 0.3 rise. So if you're budget building, could be the way to go. And it's ahead of a really good fixture run for Chelsea. I am very interested in bringing Cole Palmer in this week. No Europe till game week 6, but then he didn't have Europe last season, and he ended up in, was he the 3rd highest scoring Dream Team player on the game? I think it was. So I don't think that is a problem. And he could play that Carabao Cup match in between as well. So yeah, very interested in Palmer, and by the looks of things, a lot of people are. Someone that I'm not interested in, but he is the number 1 transferred in player this week, is Madueke, 3 million. He scored a hat-trick, got 26 points. So really, really good return. Didn't start the first match in game week 1. So I do think that is something to consider. Of course, after scoring a hat-trick, he pretty much does have to start this next Crystal Palace match. You'd like to think he'd be asking questions if you scored a hat-trick and then didn't start. But the fact that you've got Neto, new signing, João Felix, new signing, both big money signings, and then Nkunku, who is like a new signing, a really, really good player that should be starting. The fact you've got these 3 players on the bench worries me. They're 3 names that should be starting in that Chelsea side, and Cole Palmer is not coming out of the team. So I do worry for Madueke, or the transferring of Madueke. If he goes a game without scoring or doing well, or if he doesn't, even if he gets to sort of 60, 70 minutes and they're not doing what they should be doing, they won't hesitate to bring one of these players on in his place. So I don't like the transfer. I understand he'll get the 0.3 rise. I understand if you think that he's done well this week, so that form might catapult his confidence or have him doing really well. I don't know, something about it. He's just not doing it for me. I'm not saying don't do it, but I won't be doing it. Defense, Gusto at 3.5 would ordinarily be the one that we'd look at, because he had a really good season last season, got quite a few attacking returns, was getting tackle points, was getting bonus. But I was watching Match of the Day and also looking at some heat maps, and he seems to be inverting rather than overlapping like he was the season before. I do worry that's not going to get him his attacking returns. It's might not be as good for Dream Team points. So I'm not that keen on Gusto at 3.5. I'm actually more keen on Colwill and Cucurella, 3.4 and 3.5. Both have got bonus in both matches. And it seems like they're the two that are sort of chosen for the build-up, playing out of the back. And they must be tasked with playing more easy, less risky passes. Because both of them have 90 plus pass percentage. And the reason why that's important for Dream Team is it gets you 3 ppm. You only need 5 ppm to hit bonus, the first tier of bonus. And the fact both of them have had plus 90%, I think Colwill's was higher as well, puts them in good stead to get bonus, I think, on a regular basis if they carry on playing this same way. So currently I'm leaning more towards Colwill and Cucurella because they haven't then got to do much else to get bonus. So I'm liking them for that reason. And the fact that I don't think Gusto is going to be as good for attack and returns in this system. Spurs, it's a difficult run coming up. Newcastle away from home. Newcastle are really good playing at home. Arsenal in that North London derby, game week 4, will also have their Carabao Cup match put into game week 4. I'm not sure how much they'll rotate for that one. I think Ange rotated a fair bit last season. Game week 5 will be Brentford home plus Europa League, and game week 6 will be Man United away plus Europa League. So pretty tough run of fixtures coming up. Don't see many clean sheets there, but again, Romero is in the top transfers in this week, and it's understandable. So 19 points from him, an absolute freak match. He's 3.4 million, got a goal, 2 shots on target, 6 tackles, and he will get that 0.3 rise. Again, people are playing the budget game. I think people are a lot more clued in on budget building this season. But do you want him for these tough fixtures? That's a question. Newcastle, Arsenal, I don't see clean sheets. Brentford, it's a tough match. And then Man United away, it's a tough fixture. I don't see that many clean sheets there at all. Romero has packed in his dirty antics, but there is always a chance they do come out against Arsenal or against Newcastle. Newcastle are a good wind-ups team. I've seen that myself as an Arsenal fan. I don't think I'd bring... I'm not sure I'd bring Romero in. But seems pretty good recently for an attacking return. Like Porro as well, 4.2. And Udogie, 3.5. Both strong options in their own right. Same applies, though. I don't see clean sheets, but maybe they do get attacking returns. If I had Porro, which a lot of people do, I would still be keeping him for this tough run. Son, 5 million, 18 points, got 2 goals in this one. So people that did go without Salah or Haaland have done pretty well overall because the players like Palmer, Saka, Jota, Diaz, Son, all the alternatives have been returning. So you may not be that far behind unless the captaincy's gone wrong. But Son's had 2 decent games so far. He will rise in this one. But just how many goals do you see in the next 2 or 3? Because you are sort of comparing this to... He is a premium. He's 5 million, but I think a lot of people are going to be looking at maybe moving a Son or an Isak out to try and make way now for the City players, Palmer, Saka if they didn't have him, or even Liverpool players. So it's just weighing up whether or not you think he's going to do well in these next few fixtures. I don't think I'd be having him for game week 3 or game week 4 unless he was already in my team. I've got Maddison, so I'm one to talk. But he's had back-to-back assists and bonus points. Had a very good game against Everton. Also got into the box a few times. Almost had a couple one-on-ones. I think I'm going to keep him for the tough run, but it's for a different reason. Son sort of needs the attack and returns. Maddison is mostly in there for bonus. He did sort of get a return every other game, Maddison. I think it was 0.5 last season for sort of goals or assists. But he's mostly in there for bonus. He seems to be hitting bonus again like he was last season. And I think at 4.1, he's still underpriced. So I'm looking to keep him and seems to score points in a variety of different ways. Newcastle, let's check in actually and see how Newcastle are doing because they were drawing at the time I started this pod through on penalties. So Newcastle will be playing game week 4 or game week 5 in the Carabao Cup. But overall, the feeling around Newcastle, I hadn't watched the game today, but the feeling wasn't too great. So I have Hall. He was left out for Kelly in this Premier League match against Bournemouth. And I think a lot of us will be looking for replacements. I've not seen how he's done this evening, but did see that he started. But I do think I probably will be moving him on. Livramento also causing problems. Did start, but Trippier hasn't gone anywhere. Started this match this evening and came on in this match against Bournemouth. And it was before the 60th for Livramento. So I think both Livramento owners and Hall owners are probably going to be a little bit worried about that. Bruno Guimaraes, though, 8 points against Bournemouth, doing what he always does. Bonus, tackles, all round, doing really well. Be interesting to see how his points are affected by Tonali coming back into the team. He started this evening, and I think it looked like they did play together at some point during the game. Anthony Gordon, Bruno Guimaraes, by the way. If I had him, I'd keep him. Gordon has stung people this week. So 13 points, 3 bonus, strong minutes, and sort of scoring how we expect Gordon to score. A lot of people taking players out because price changes, budget reasons, and this is a classic example of it. I've been done by it myself. I'll come on to that later. But people that took Gordon out will be disappointed with this one. Murphy, early sub. I think it's time for him to go. Another early substitute. 58 minutes. I think it's time. Isak's one that, again, is causing issues. So it looks like he's got an assist this evening. Still not what we want. We want the goals, but 7 points this evening against Forest with an assist, a shot on target, and a big chance created. Just the 3 points against Bournemouth. So 10 points for the game week. It's okay. It's okay. But I think we expected more by this point in the season. I think many are going to be losing patience, myself included. But Tottenham historically has been a good fixture for Newcastle at home as well. So will we be seeing another Gordon scenario where we take out Isak and then the week after, bang, they punish you? It's a tough call to make. I'm leaning towards taking Isak out currently. We'll have to wait and see with my team selection. And I'll have to have a look back at how we've done this evening. With Europe approaching, though, I think the only thing that will have you keeping these Newcastle players is the thought of maybe having another Carabao Cup match. But like we saw this evening, there is a fair bit of rotation that happens. Crystal Palace. So after the Premier League match against West Ham, that 2-0 loss, I think a lot of us were saying time to get rid of our Crystal Palace players. I'd seen Dean Henderson owners disappointed. I'd seen Eze owners disappointed. Kamada owners disappointed after he didn't start. But all was redeemed in the Carabao Cup because Crystal Palace went strong. Whether or not they intend to go strong in future Carabao Cup matches, or whether it was just to try and find a bit of form after the 2 disappointing results. But whatever it was, it worked. So in this first match, Eze with just the 5 points, he was 1 ppm off of hitting 3 bonus points. But overall, I think he looked good. Again, he hit the crossbar. I think he's been unlucky. But Carabao Cup, he started, and he was not one that I expected to start the Carabao Cup. One that's usually protected because of his injury record, but he got a goal and assist, 14 points, 1 ppm off bonus, but 19 points for the game week. Eze has gone from sell to hold for a lot of people this week. Kamada 1.8, didn't start, dropped in value last week from 2 million. It takes a lot to drop from 2 million. Didn't start. He did actually come on and pick up a bonus point, which is impressive after 63 minutes. But he started that Carabao Cup match, goal, assist, 12 points, and should probably rise by 0.3 now. So you could get him in for a rise. The question will be, will he start that Premier League match against Chelsea? But at the price point, it's okay to take a few risks. Mateta, 20 points, 2 goals, 1 assist against Norwich. Just the 2 points blank in the Premier League. So a lot of the points have come from this Carabao Cup for Crystal Palace. I don't think he's one that I'll be choosing. The striker positions are too valuable for me. But at 3.2, he'll get you the rise, and he's a budget pick. And then in defence, I think people were looking to probably move on their defenders as well. But Gahey, Mitchell, Munoz, and Henderson started both fixtures this week and picked up the clean sheet in the Carabao. I'd probably opt for the wing backs myself, because Gahey, there's still a bit of talk that he could move away. There is talk that they'll be getting that centre back from Wolfsburg in, which you'd have to think that. Well, I would think that it was replacing Gahey, but actually Anderson has gone, so it could just be an Anderson replacement. But they've had an injury to Riyadh as well at the back, so probably safest bet is going to be Munoz or Mitchell. I'd go Munoz. Then just a couple of options from these teams here. So Everton, Fulham, Brentford, and Forest. So Everton, you might be raising eyebrows here, but Robingham at 1.8 million, started at 1.5. He's had 20 points so far this season, averaging 6.7 points per game for a 1.8 million pound player. Like I said, rose 0.3 last week, got 14 points this game week. He'll rise again. 9 tackles against Brighton in game week 1. For some reason, didn't have any tackles against Spurs, but it was a bit of a drubbing in that one. But 11 tackles against Doncaster. I think I saw that was the most duels won in a Carabao Cup match as well, in all time. 1 assist, 3 bonus points. Could solve the budget problem if you are looking for a cheap enabler in midfield. Probably more nailed than going for Kamada as well. And of course, through to the next round, which Everton have seemingly gone strong in the Carabao last season and this season. It looked like he actually had a goal, and I wish he did have a goal, but it took a deflection off Dwight McNeil, the player that I took out this game week. I lost patience. I was going to roll. I should have kept him. I had him in for the bonus and the chance of attacking returns, but I sold him after a 4-pointer. And then this week, he's played both matches. He got 5 points against Spurs in a 4-0 loss. He was just 1 player performance mark off of hitting max bonus in that match. And then in this Doncaster game, he's got the faintest of touches on that Robingham shot and got 10 points for a goal. So I've been absolutely screwed here by McNeil, but it's my own fault. I don't hold McNeil responsible. Fulham, nice fixture run with the Carabao Cup. They are through to the next round, but they did rotate. So unlike Everton, for example, who went pretty strong, Fulham rotated a fair bit. Smith Rowe got off the mark this week with a goal, 10 points. He has had reduced minutes in both Premier League matches, but has looked promising. I think he played 10 minutes or just under in the Carabao Cup, which I think should mean that he won't get a price, or that match won't affect his price change. I think you have to play over 10 minutes for that. Pereira at 2.4. So he was the person I brought in to replace McNeil. And he actually did okay. He's not equaled McNeil where he's got that goal. But both McNeil and Pereira were on maximum bonus, 5 bonus points. But both got docked 1 ppm overnight. So not the worst transfer. The reason I brought him in is because he's taking all set pieces and a lot of set pieces across the 2 matches. So he looks pretty set for hitting bonus regularly and has got attacking returns in his own right. Could also be on penalties potentially. We don't know for certain. But I thought that he looked like a good enabler. And I fancied him for this fixture run. So Fulham have got Ipswich, West Ham, Newcastle and Forest. I thought if I do get stuck with him, it's not the end of the world. Brentford, it's a nice fixture as a one-off. If I was going to do it, it'd be in Buemo, but I'm trying to look at longer-term picks. So I don't hate it if you wanted to take a chance on Buemo for that home Southampton fixture, but you may get stuck with him for some of the tough ones, which include City away and Spurs away, and then West Ham after that, which on paper, very tough. And then last, Forest. So they kept a clean sheet against Southampton, which is good for sales if you've got him. Or I've seen a lot of people with Forest defenders. I think you could still jump on there if you do need someone cheap just for a couple of weeks to see you through a bit of budget building. Aina, Williams, Milenkovic, all 2 million, done pretty well, but they did have a lot of rotation in the Carabao Cup. And like I said, they've just been eliminated on penalties, so they won't have Carabao Cup in that game week 4 or 5. So just singles for them. And then after Wolves, it is Liverpool away, Brentford away. So I think, again, this is probably going to be sort of 1 week punt territory if you go for Forest. Morgan Gibbs-White, I thought I'd just put him in the mentions as well. 12 points against Southampton. Who else was it going to be? 12 points, 1 bonus point, 3 tackles, 2 shots on target. Another player that I took out this week. So Dwight McNeil and Morgan Gibbs-White, both out, both scored this week. There's a lesson to be learned there somewhere. I'll look into that a bit deeper when I do my team selection video. A quick look at captain picks for game week 3 then. So the teams I'm going to highlight: Arsenal, City, Chelsea, and Liverpool. These are the only teams that are projected to score more than 2 goals this game week for game week 3. Haaland is likely to be my captain, I think, off the back of a hat-trick, getting 4 minutes. So he's getting 90 minutes. It's not like when Champions League starts and sometimes he gets taken off early. He seems to be playing all the minutes in the games. He's had 4 goals in 2 matches. And in the same fixture last season, away at West Ham, he did score 1 goal. City scored 3 goals in both meets as well against West Ham last season. So I do fancy City to score plenty of goals. Salah, 14 goals, 4 assists in 15 appearances against Manchester United. That's a ridiculous record. So more attacking returns than he's had matches against Manchester United. 6 goals, 2 assists in his last 5 matches against United as well. So Salah also looking like a decent option against Manchester United. Then Cole Palmer. Obviously, a lot of people bringing him in this week. Don't think he's a bad option to have as a captain. Home fixture opposed to Liverpool and Manchester City, who both play away. He wasn't in the squad for the same corresponding fixture last season, but in the away match, he did get 2 assists. And then Saka returned in both fixtures so far this season with a goal, 2 assists. It's a home fixture for Arsenal. He's got multiple routes to points. He rarely does completely blank. He got a penalty goal in the away fixture last season against Brighton, but no return in the home one. But 5 goals were scored by Arsenal across the 2 fixtures. So again, it looks like a fixture that could throw up goals for Arsenal. Overall, though, I'm probably going to rank them in that order. I think Haaland, Salah, Palmer, and then Saka for me for the captaincy. I have thrown Aston Villa in there as a little bit of a wild card. Maybe if you are bringing in Watkins and you are taking the price hit on him, maybe you could captain him as well away at Leicester. But I would be a little bit put off by the fact that he did play 65 minutes and get subbed off. So I would put him bottom of the pile. That is everything for this episode. So thank you very much for watching. Like I said, team selection video tomorrow once we have the draws for the Carabao Cup and hopefully some more information on the European fixtures. If you're looking for a bit more content, do head over to the Dream Team Tonic podcast. Like I said, their Game Week 3 video is now out. We've done that live with everyone over on YouTube, so do check that one out. Dream Team Tonic over on YouTube. That is everything. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.